Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, I talked to Jon Dykstra from Fatstacksblog.com. Jon's a friend of mine. We've been, corresponding for the last maybe couple years, but we never connected too deeply until maybe the last year or so, where we were exchanging more emails. And I think both of us, we sort of matured as bloggers and, what it is we're trying to do. So this conversation is awesome. I learned a lot of stuff just chatting with Jon and sort of his approach to things. And the cool thing, two cool things, at least, there's many more cool things, but two cool things. Jon's making 35 to 40K per month profit, not just revenue, right? So expenses included on a monthly basis. So he's basically making a full-time income for some people each month. So he's doing really well. And Jon runs a very lean team, much like myself. He doesn't want to create a lot of overhead and admin work and stuff like that. And we have a very similar approach for that sort of a lean team. However, I focus mostly on Amazon affiliate sites, and Jon focuses a lot on ad-based sites that get a insane amount of traffic, right? That's how that business model works. You need a lot of traffic, and he's doing it, right? He's doing it. It's amazing. And the cool thing is, when I got into affiliate marketing and basically making money online, I didn't do very well with these ad-based sites for whatever reason. And I moved on pretty quickly to Amazon affiliate sites because that's what the people that I was reading about, that's what they were doing, like Spencer Hawes at Niche Pursuits. And basically, Jon made these ad-based sites work really well. So he dabbles a little bit with affiliate marketing, but in general, he's focused on just a different kind of site, which is totally cool. It really emphasizes the fact that you can do these things in many different ways. So we talk about publishing a lot of content, managing huge sites, and outsourcing. So a lot of cool stuff here. And if this episode piques your interest, then there are two things that I need to point out for you. One, you should definitely go to Fatstacks Blog. Two, you should check out my interview with Ron Stefanski, who also has high traffic ad-based sites, and he's making in the 20K per month range. Both of these guys publish their income reports, all right, fairly detailed income reports on a monthly basis, which is kind of rare these days. It takes a lot of work, and at some point it gets weird publishing how much money you're making. Okay, so definitely check out those other couple interviews. And Jon is joining me soon for another more a casual shop talk kind of conversation. So we had such a good time. I was like, hey, why don't you come back on? We could just have a more casual chat and have a little bit more back and forth versus the interview style. I mean, I usually throw in my opinion anyway. I mean, I can't help that, So anyway, if it's your first time listening to The Doug Show, welcome. Have a look at some of the other episodes or listen to some of the other episodes. If you dig it, that's great. Subscribe. We talk a lot about just deep topics around making money online, affiliate marketing, ad-based sites, deep on the SEO. Sometimes we talk about other stuff. So have a look around, and if you like it, please subscribe. I'll send it over to the interview now. Thanks to Jon Dykstra. Be sure to check out fatstacksblog.com, and I think you'll like what you find over there. Hey, what's going on? Doug Cunnington here for The Doug Show, and I'm with my friend Jon Dykstra. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing really well, Doug. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
And this is really cool. I've read your stuff for a long time, and I think we have exchanged some emails and stuff, but it's the first time face-to-face via Skype. So it's a pleasure to talk to you, and I know The audience is really excited. I got a few questions in, and yeah, I'm pumped to get rolling here. So for the people that don't know you, Jon, can you give a little intro about what you do now, and then we'll dive into your origin story in a second. But what are you up to these days?
Yeah, these days I'm publishing a number of sites. I fashion myself as an online publisher, and mostly niche sites, really. Topical. I have 9 right now, if you include the Fatstacks site. And I just work on them, and they're content-oriented, really. They monetize with display ads, some affiliate stuff, and that's pretty much it. And I tend to focus on a few rather than I'm kicking a few along. It's use a few for testing purposes, but that's about it, and just hoping to grow them out.
Cool. And on Fatstacks, you write about like your online journey and working online in general?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Tutorials, what I'm doing, how I do it, pertaining to the other 8 niche sites.
Right on. Okay, cool. And what's your background before you got into the online world here?
Yeah, I used to practice law and actually enjoyed that. And I was with a smaller firm that needed a website way back in 2005. So I was tasked with getting a website, got a company to do it all, and they're like, you should try blogging. That might be good for some traffic and readers and getting some clients. I had no idea. So I thought, oh, sure, okay. I did it. I had no idea. And they were right. It worked really, really well. And keep in mind, I mean, there was almost no competition back then, so it was good. The SEO worked out really, really well. So I started blogging, just weekends, a few blog posts a month, and prospective clients liked it. They came in, and grew a practice pretty good. And it turned out I like blogging more than law, so I moved in that direction, and at some point I had to decide. Doing both got to be difficult, so I jumped ship into full-time blogging and haven't looked back.
Wow. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. And let me make sure I got the timeline right. So in around 2005, you were starting to like dabble in blogging, but it was for the law practice.
Yeah, that's correct. I did that for a number of years, quite a while, until 2012.
Okay. And were you doing the actual blogging and stuff?
Yeah, I didn't outsource anything. I mean, when you're writing about law in a particular jurisdiction, I mean, it's got to be technically correct, right? And so that was all me. I really enjoyed doing it, and so yeah, I spent the time writing it all up.
So when you you enjoyed your other job, which is rare. That's super weird, actually, because most everyone that I worked with, they hated it. Even the people that said they enjoyed it, like they hated it. So, how did you decide to like stop practicing law and move into the online area?
Well, yeah, law was fun. I did criminal defense work and other litigation, so it's exciting. It's very exciting, and I miss some of it. I worked with my dad, which was just fantastic. I really enjoyed that, and I miss the clients. You get to help people, and so I miss that. But there are things you don't like you don't really have control over your life. It's trials are very time consuming, all consuming really, and it's more stressful, frankly. You've got, you're dealing in criminal matters. It's pretty serious stuff, and flexibility, vacation, that sort of thing. Really being more of a full-time website publisher, you get a lot more flexibility in your life, and that was something I really wanted. So, it wasn't an easy decision. I can tell you that because I really did enjoy it, and but ultimately this is what I decided. I don't regret it. I'm very happy with what I do now, so I carry on. But it is nice having that ticket, a backup plan, a plan B if ever necessary. So yeah, it's good to have a backup plan.
Right. And I think, I was not a lawyer, but I had like a professional career, and I was doing that for about 10 years. So I can go back if I need to. And it is nice to have like, you know, to understand what it's like to work in a corporate job or a professional, you know, career like a lawyer. So versus like if we just got out of high school and started doing this, like I don't think I'd be able to operate very well, and just like execute like I understand. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that or?
Well, not really. I mean, I think having a ticket of some sort it is a nice backup plan. I mean, let's face it, this is in a way a risky business. I mean, there are a lot of factors beyond our control, and a lot of us talk about that regularly. I mean, we rely on Google for traffic. A lot of us relied on Facebook once upon a time until that party ended abruptly. Pinterest, you know, I mean, we don't really have a lot of control over these things. We do the best we can. So there are risks built in. We do our best to minimize them. But you know, it's happened to other people, and other businesses have closed. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. But I mean, if you look at it broader too, I mean, you're not bulletproof in a job. You're not bulletproof with a brick and mortar business. It all has risk. And, you know, I think for me, I'm well aware of it. You could try to diversify, and it's possible, and I do a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I'm just aware of it. So when you say having a backup plan, I think it's good. I like the fact that I do. So,
right on. Yeah. So actually, that's a great segue, and I enjoy just like talking to and getting to know people. So we're going to circle back later with more like personal stuff and just, you know, random things that I want to ask you about. But a lot of people want to know about like your portfolio of sites. You mentioned you primarily like publish a lot of content. You have ads on most of your sites. So you have about 8 sites. Can you just tell us a little bit about like the ad-based, I guess, what word am I looking for? Business model, the ad-based business model here, and why you ended up there versus some other area?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, for the first half, I would say, of being online here, I did all affiliate stuff because I read constantly affiliates, you know, that's where the money is, and, you know, ads are a waste of money. It's pennies versus dollars. And I bought into it. And I don't know, I started up a niche site at one point and doing the affiliate thing, hammering away, and was going nowhere. And I thought, I did have an AdSense account. This is way back when AdSense was fairly easy to get. So I just had one languishing, and I decided, oh, I'll throw a few ads on there and just see what happens. And it was like, I mean, for relative to what the affiliate stuff was doing, it was amazing. And that was like right away, I just saw the potential of what ads could do for a site with traffic. So I completely shifted, and I still do a fair amount of affiliate, but the display ads have definitely exceeded the affiliate stuff. And so, yeah, I shifted focus, and now pretty much every site I run, except for Fatstacks, is ad supported. And I like it, and I like it primarily because I love the flexibility. Coming back to flexibility again. I like flexibility in my life, and I like it for publishing too, because with affiliate stuff, if you want to make money with affiliate links, you have to publish a certain type of content, which we call buyer intent, and there needs to be an intent behind it where somebody's going to look, click, and potentially buy. If you put a bunch of affiliate links on just some general informational stuff, your chance of generating any clicks and sales are very low. So, but with that, you can write on any topic you like. And I really like that. I like to be able to publish on just some random informational article that I find interesting or topic that's related to the niche, and I could still monetize that. And that was really freeing. So that was a huge point. And I was able to really go after a lot of topics with almost no competition or very little competition, and focus on publishing content and know that that content would be monetized. And I'm not saying each piece of content makes a fortune from ads. It doesn't, but it's in the aggregate. I'm able to publish more content. I'm able to go after more traffic. And so it's a higher traffic volume model, but it's for me, it's worked out very nicely.
Yes, and I'll put links and stuff, but you do publish some income reports, and just say for about like the last several months, like what's the average profit from your portfolio of sites that you publish income reports on?
It ranges from right now. It ranges about, I would say, 30 to 45,000 US a month. My expenses fluctuate a little bit, and obviously revenue fluctuates. But yeah, that's the range we're talking about right now.
Okay, excellent. I just want to give everyone like the scope of what we're talking about. So most people would say that's serious money, beyond like, full time, what most people are making like in general. So that's awesome. Congratulations, John. That's
Thanks.
really good. And the thing I want to do is sort of like focus in on sort of like one of the sites. Of course, it will be not revealed or anything like that, but one of the sites is sort of like the big guy, right? It's making most of the money. And what kind of traffic are you seeing on that site?
That's approaching 1 million visitors a month right now. Yeah. So, and the page views are quite a bit higher. I get quite a few page views per visitor. So yeah, you say, yeah, it's hard to focus with that intensity on more than one site. So it does get the lion's share of resources and my time. And I mean, I'd be dumb not to, because that's the big earner. Like you say, I've got a friend, and he's got the same thing. He owns a bunch of sites, and he's got the big guys or the big guns, and then the little sites that you kick along. And I actually like having some smaller sites for. Right now, I'm doing a bunch of ad testing. So if I want to test a different ad network or something, I got a handful of sites that together will get 10,000 page views a day or visitors, and that's enough. I can test stuff without testing on the biggest earning sites. So that's actually a nice arrangement for me. So I'm currently doing some testing, and which helps me, gives me good information to write about on Fatstacks. But I do definitely focus time and resources on one site for sure.
And that was my dog Georgie. Sorry about that. This is a very casual situation, so sometimes she helps us out here. And okay, so a ton of traffic, and most of the money is made on that one site. You have the other sites, you could do some testing. That's fantastic. So, like, I guess, can you tell us about like how old the site is? Like, how much content are you publishing, and some of the details, as much as you could share. I know some of this is proprietary information, but as much as you could share on that.
Sure. The site launched in February 2014, and it's definitely had ups and downs. I tell you, I kind of got started buying Facebook traffic and building up a Facebook page with it and buying fans. I mean, I think you've been around long enough to remember those days when Facebook was very effective at that. So that definitely helped get the ball rolling first couple of years. Now Facebook there's no point in really using it. So I really focus on Google search. But so yeah, I'm approaching a little over 5 years now with that site. In terms of, there's about 3,300 articles on the site right now. I add 1 to 3 new ones a day. I slow it a little bit down on the weekends. I've also, in the last year or two, been putting a lot of effort into updating older content. Let's say I've learned a lot since 2014 on what's a good article and quality and what works within the niche. I've learned a lot about working within the niche and what doesn't work. So I'm going back and fixing up some of the older stuff. So that's the process right now. It's the volume I'm doing. It's actually not a lot of volume. 1 to 2 or 3 articles a day new is nothing compared to a lot of sites out there. But they do take a lot of work.
That's alarming for some people, and then other folks would think, hey, that's not so bad. And I take it at this point you're not doing the writing yourself. You have some folks that help you out with writing.
I do. I use a variety of services, but I do write sometimes something. If I'm interested in a topic, I'll write it because I like writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I rely mostly, I would say the lion's share of the content is done with other people helping out.
Okay, gotcha. And it sounds like you hire services. You're not managing or like doing any HR for like writers or whatever, right?
No, I do use services. I have a site manager that oversees a lot of it, and she's a huge help and really she pretty much knows everything on the site. And then, I tend to use agencies, but I use a variety of them because I find that each one has pros and cons. So, like, I'll break it down to two different types of agencies. Okay, there's the agency, and by agency I mean writing agency or writing service. So there's the one that you would hire, you pay them a bunch of money, and you order, let's say, 100,000 words for an order. And you give them your list of topics, and what they do is they will assign your work to one or two writers, and they will drip feed content. They'll say, we'll do a turnaround time of 6 weeks, but we'll be able to kick back, a few articles a week to you, and that's great. And so that model works for a lot of what I do because I don't publish everything in one day and not do anything for a month. I do it daily or every other day. So that's one type of agency. The other type is something where you submit your project or writing task, and then you're basically submitting it to a huge pool of writers. All right, and then so you could literally submit 100,000 words, let's say broken up into 50 articles, and you can have them all picked up by 25 or maybe 30 different writers within a day or two, and they'll turn them around in a week. So you could literally get 100,000 words back to you in a week. So that's a different agency model, and they both have their advantages, right? Like sometimes I need something fast, and I don't want to interrupt the flow of the agency that drip feeds to me. So I'll use that. I'll submit the couple projects. They get it back to me in 3 days. And then I have my main writing agency that just sort of continuously drip feeds articles to me, and then we get them published on the site.
Perfect. That is a great explanation. And I've been in the same boat where like sometimes you're just in a little bit of a hurry, and other times you can, put it on autopilot and let things happen. So that makes total sense. Now, it could be a very short answer, but like you're obviously working with agencies and or, the services that can handle it versus hiring people on your own. And just the other day on YouTube, someone was like, hey, Doug, you're an idiot for paying that much for an article. You could hire someone like a college student and manage them and train them and do all this stuff and get it for, pennies on the dollar. So why don't you try to hire people at a cheaper rate?
Because I don't like to manage. Okay. Straight up, I'll tell you that. I don't want to manage 3 or 4. Now, I'm not saying I want to do it, and I think there are huge advantages. I think you might get better quality control, but my main writing agency that I use, I have a point person there who manages it. And sure, it's not a perfect service, nothing will be, but it helps me out a lot because I don't have to deal with that. And I don't want to manage 2, 3, 4 people at all. So that's principally why. In terms of then the other types of writing services where I can get all the articles back in 3, 4 days, I tend to manage that, but that's more of a one-off situation. That's not something where I'm doing that every week where I'm submitting a huge order. So I try to keep my management to a minimum because I'm not a good manager and I don't care to manage. I have other areas that I like to focus on. So that's why I don't do that.
Perfect. Great answer, John. Love it. Yeah, I said virtually the same thing. I think I'm a pretty good manager, but there's so much other stuff to do in the world, like than try to wrangle college students who don't give a shit about like what you're working on, So I was like, if I'm going on vacation, I can't babysit writers that are not professionals versus I think we can mention the company. I think we use the same one. I found them through you, Content Development Pros, right?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the main outfit I'm using right now. Yeah.
Yep. And like I gave them, thank you for the recommendation, by the way. I think you've gotten some affiliate commissions over there from me. But they've pushed out, while I was on vacation, they pushed out like 50 articles in about 30 days. And I had my one VA, similar to you. I have some folks that are sort of in the inner circle, and they took care of everything while I was gone. I answered no questions. It was great. So, yeah.
I hear you. So that's how I use them too. For sure.
So, yeah, I think people have to look at like what's important to them and what they like working on. If you really like hiring people from Upwork, that's crazy, but maybe you should open an agency. But if that's what you want to do, that's totally cool. So, okay, let's hit some of the questions that were sent in by a couple of my students who are big fans of yours. A lot of common folks. So this is from Graham, and he has a specific question here. So, okay, so if you had a site that's been penalized by a Google update and most of the traffic went away, what would you do? He had a couple things that maybe he would try, but I'll just leave it open and yeah, go ahead.
I would probably bail on it, start something new, or buy an existing site. Hopefully it's not penalized. I've been there, though. I bought a domain. It was rotten to the core, and I didn't know it. So been there. I bail on it. I don't know. I guess my first question to that question is have you already put like tons of time and money into it, or it's kind of a new thing and you haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole? If that's the case, just walk away and do something else. I don't know. See, I'm not a real technical SEO, so I know people seem to claim that they know how to do disavow with links and get sites unpenalized or out of the, no more problems. I don't know how to do any of that. So, and I don't really care to learn. I suspect they're very expensive to hire to do it for you. So I'm not sure that would be worth it. So I don't think I'd have a choice but to walk away. Okay.
And again, good answer. I think I'll add in some of my own thoughts here. I think if it was a viable niche, like overall, potentially like grab that content, go to a new domain, like work it out. I think in the last year or so, Google has been coming down harder on some of those. They call it your money or your life sort of topic. So if it's like health related or if it's like financially related, you may have trouble. It may take a long time to recover that. So unless you happen to be like a doctor or a financial advisor or something, I would probably like move on and pick something a little easier. So as far as like the disavowing and stuff, I have some experience helping. I've had some stuff penalized, by the way, and at some point it's like, you just gotta take what you learned and move on. So, well, that said, let's move on to sort of link building area. So I kind of have an idea what you may say for this, but what do you do for link building?
Aside from the few experiments or one-off testing and so forth, I don't do anything. I tend to focus on the content, attract links rather than build them. And well, it's not that I have a moral issue with link building. I don't think it's a moral issue whatsoever. It's a business decision for me. I tend to prefer to hunt out low competition keywords and topics, publish good content, put in some stuff in there that may attract links. I tend to find like custom graphics and images can do well to attract links, frankly, because people rip them off and they'll give you a source link, which is great. Steal all the stuff you want off my site as long as you give me a link. I'm happy about it. So yeah, that's what I do. I don't really do outreach. I don't do guest posts. I do I run experiments here. Like I said, I've got a bunch of sites, and some of them I use as guinea pigs. I try stuff, but that's really about it. So yeah, frankly, nothing.
And can you talk a little bit more about like the content that attracts links? You mentioned images and any other like tips maybe people could test out.
Yeah, I think, I kind of came across this because I like linking out to good resources in my content that will help readers. So I find like statistics or data or tables, charts, illustrations, a good photo. If you take a good photo for it or license one, these are all things that other sites will use on their site. They'll either just take it from you or ask you to use it. I've had print publications email me and ask to use various media in there for that attribute. And I don't get a link because it's print, but they usually will give some form of attribution, and I'm like, yeah, of course, great, thanks for asking. So Just I don't know, give really technical stuff that's not covered elsewhere, and then different types of media will tend to do it. But I don't want to give the impression like, oh, if you put on 2 cool graphics on your website, the links are going to pour in, because it's not going to happen. It's sort of it's a big push, and it takes a lot of them, and some will work and some won't, and it takes a lot of content, and it takes a lot of time for other sites to find these. But what's interesting is it's almost kind of an exponential effect. As you do attract links over time, you attract more links at a faster rate because you're ranking more content. Other publishers find you more easily and they link to you. So it's sort of this self-fulfilling cycle. So you just got to hang in there in the beginning. So, don't go spend $5,000 on graphics and then expect like, in 3 months you're going to have all the traffic in the world, because that's not going to happen. And I tried, because I did commission an expensive infographic once upon a time, thinking, oh, if I get this great infographic, I'll do all the outreach and I'll get 100 sites will put it on their site. I mean, the results were terrible, and the infographic was good. The results were terrible. So, yeah.
Yep, I agree. Like I've actually tried the infographic stuff, and the thing is, honestly, people like you and I will publish a case study, make it sound relatively easy, even though it may have been a few tries and a little more iteration out there. But if you give it a shot and you're not going to stick with it like for iterations, then it may not work that well. But you're right that exponential like link growth, if it's like, actually the keyword golden ratio is like super helpful for that, because you could rank for some obscure term, some sort of like head shining gel for bald people, or some kind of product that you and I would look at, and then you rank number 1 because no one else is publishing anything, and then you get some links from that, and then like you said, it's a self-fulfilling, it just pushes everything else up. So very cool.
Sure.
And anything else from like an SEO standpoint, maybe on the content side? Sounds like maybe you're mostly focusing on the keyword research, and then like just a huge volume of, I assume, pretty high quality content for the site. So any tips on page?
Oh, I don't get all that technical about it. I use a lot of heading tags or header tags, H2s, H3s, H4s. I like to structure. I'm actually pretty fanatical about how it's structured in terms of a lot of headings, proper use of subheadings, and then a table of contents at the top to tie it all together. So that works well for me. I use a lot of images as well, and I take the time to write a really good alt text, usually either a phrase or sometimes a full sentence in there. Sometimes I captions, sometimes I don't. But all of these little things that take, and this adds up in terms of consuming time. So that takes a long time. I mean, you add 15 images to an article and do all the alt text. I mean, that alone will take time, not to mention optimizing the images. But yeah, I just try to structure it really well. I try to be thorough. I'm using ClearScope right now, which basically analyzes whether you've got all the proper keywords or phrases or so forth within the article. And I started using them a few months ago, and they're like MarketMuse, but just not as much money. I think MarketMuse is a fantastic product. In fact, I did use them for a while, and they're great. They're just very expensive. And, if you're a Fortune 500 company and their rate is obviously not going to put a dent in you. But for me, it was a bit hefty. So ClearScope does a really nice job. It's simple to use. So I've been using that. And actually what's nice is I've got the writers who use it too. You can add users. So pretty much all the content that's going out right now is getting run through ClearScope. And again, using ClearScope is not going to guarantee that you're going to rank for everything. It's just another step to take to sort of help things along. And that's why I use it. I don't expect miracles from any one technique. You just sort of try to do the best you can in everything, and some stuff will work out.
Gotcha. Yeah, good. I didn't even know about that tool, but yeah, MarketMuse is quite expensive. I mean, it's really for, like you said, Fortune 500, 100, like big agencies or something like that. So, okay, cool. Now, one other question around sort of actually two. Is there a certain length of content that you aim for, or it just depends on the topic?
Really depends on the topic, but I would say I'm in the habit of 1,500 to 3,000 words.
Okay, so generally long form, most people would say. Okay, very good.
Yes.
And then do you have a strategy? You said you're going back and auditing some of your old content, and you have a lot of content. You said like over 3,000 pieces of content. So how are you handling that from like a sanity and system standpoint to actually get through it and like hit the most important stuff while, ignoring the noise over here?
Right. Well, I've learned a lot since then. So let's say a piece of content that was published 3 or 4 years ago, I probably didn't structure it with heading tags as well as I do now. So that's an easy fix. And may not have a table of contents because I manually insert that in each article. So I could do that. I can run it through ClearScope, which has helped. It's a time-consuming process, but it'll help me figure out what additional topics I should add to the article. So I've been doing that. And one fairly easy way to do this, I've been doing some frequently asked questions, adding them into some articles if it makes sense, if there's an angle for FAQ in there. So I'll add that. And really ClearScope has helped quite a bit. Even just looking at it, I mean, I know my niches pretty well, so I can look at an article and be like, okay, well, a year ago we started doing, we've expanded how I outline articles and how deep we go into a topic. So I will look at some of the older stuff, say, well, I missed this, and this, and that can easily be done. So that's what I do. Sometimes it's a 20-minute process. Sometimes it's almost like writing a whole article from scratch. That's how atrocious it was.
Yeah, I can relate. Like as I'm going through a couple of my sites, even Niche Site Project, when I look back at some of the early posts, like it's just a mess. And across my multiple sites, I have, upward, well over 1,000 like pieces of content. So I'm like, okay, what do I need to work on here? It's kind of hard to decipher everything, but interesting. Okay, now you mentioned you have like the service of writers that you're, or the services that you use. You have it sounds like a site manager. So do you have any full-time folks that work with you, or is it all like part-time freelancers? How's your team look?
Yeah, I have 5 full-time VAs right now that handle a lot of things. So one does just graphics. So when I talk about creating custom illustrations and charts and all that sort of thing, that's what he does. He does a really nice job. So sometimes he'll get 3 done a week, sometimes 1 a week. Depends on the size of it. And then I have one who manages the other 4, as well as the content coming in. And then I have 3 others who just help with optimizing images, fixing up older content, doing a big project right now, updating some older articles. They're more image focused, so it's a lot of managing the images rather than the text. So they're doing that right now.
Gotcha. And how did the team like grow over time? I assume when you first transitioned over, it's probably just you. So how did the trajectory look?
Yeah, it was just me for quite a while. The person who manages right now, she was the first person I hired. I got really lucky with her. Like, I didn't know what, I think she was one of the first applicants and sounded like she could do it. And I've worked now with her for 3 or 4 years, and she's great. And so, I just slowly over. I used to have more employed. Sometimes I have a huge project that might take 3 months, so I'll ramp up, I'll hire. But I tell them up front, this is a one-off project. The position is going to end at roughly around so and so. But right now, I think we've got ongoing work for 4 or 5 right now. I don't know. It just sort of happened. Just keep hiring people, and as the projects came along, yeah.
Okay.
I may scale down again in the future. Kind of depends on my needs. I may scale up and just sort of see how it goes on a, I won't say month-by-month basis, but maybe yearly basis.
Gotcha. And do you have any tips for people who are on the cusp of like maybe hiring someone, or they're not sure if they should? Any tips?
Yeah, one thing I've found out is as part of the hiring process is I'll actually send them assignments, actual real assignments similar to what they would be doing. I tell them I'll pay them for their time if I'm going to use the work, because I don't want to just get a bunch of free work from people. So I'll do that, and I'll maybe shortlist anywhere from 5 to 7 and let them actually execute the projects. I tell them to track their time so I know what I pay them, but I also use that time tracking so I can see how quickly they get the work done and match it to how well it was done. So that, I know it adds 3 or 4 days to the hiring process, and I know when you want to hire someone, you want them like hired instantly, but I found that actually just taking that extra time and doing that has helped find good people. That was particularly useful with the guy who I hired for graphics, because I had 7 people actually do some graphic projects, and the range in quality and how quickly they could do it was huge. And there was one standout, and fortunately he accepted the job. So yeah, it makes a big difference.
Gotcha. You sound like a pretty good manager, and maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit.
No, no, I'm really not. I don't like it either. But in terms of hiring, I used to do shortcuts. I used to not just take the time and it resulted in some bad hires lately, though. Well, now I've got to the point that this is actually great, because my project manager, who's been with me for 3 years, she now does all the hiring, which is great. So she posts the ads, she vets them all. So I'm no longer doing it, which I really like, because hiring is not a fun process. It's hard. It's you know what I think. I think the stuff that I don't like doing is often when there's uncertainty about it, and it's like, I don't know if you're going to hire the right person. It's really a crapshoot, and I think every business will tell you that. And you just don't know. It's like, you're going to hire them, you're going to train them, which is a ton of work, and then you're going to pay them, and it doesn't work out, and it's really frustrating. And this can happen over and over and over. And in fact, the last round that we hired, I think she hired a total of 6 or 7 people, and 3 stayed on. So it's a frustrating process.
Yep. And that, we're like paralleling quite a bit here. Like, I have been training one of my VAs to hire folks on Pinterest, create the job posting, do all the things, and I don't do anything. It's great, and she's learning, right? The VA that's hiring folks, she's learning, so it's like more interesting work for her. She's building skills. Like, she hadn't done these pieces. She hadn't fired anyone before, so I had to teach her how to fire someone in a proper way. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, so like, it runs the full spectrum, and yeah, like, it sounds like you got a great assistant doing the PM work and all the HR garbage that you don't want to do. So, okay, let's move on to some mistakes. So it sounds like you've had like a rich career in this online space. Have you made any like awful blunders that you could share, and hopefully we could learn something from? And I didn't prep you ahead of time, so if we need to come back to it, that is totally okay. And I'll just mention, one of my big mistakes was just like underestimating a Google penalty. So back in the day when I got started, everyone was talking about private blog networks and a lot of other link building things. So in fact, I learned a lot from like Smart Passive Income and Pat Flynn. And even Pat Flynn was building like link pyramids and link wheels and hiring, folks to spin articles and kind of crazy stuff, which seems just insane now, considering where Pat is. But anyway, I got tangled up in that stuff, and I got penalized a few times until I was like, all right, I've had enough. Like, I just don't want to work with that sort of area anymore. Like you said, it's maybe slightly unethical in certain ways. So anyway, any big mistakes out there, John?
Well, yeah, if we're talking about way back in the good old days of SEO, I got penalized big time. Well, I knew right away. I knew right away that was it. Like, the SEO has changed forever, and I recognize that. I completely shifted gear. That was 2012 when the first penguin dropped. So, I'll never forget. We were all doing. Well, I shouldn't say we all were, but a lot of people were doing. Just like you said, the article spinning, the software, I mean, it was just ridiculous. It's like, in a lot of ways, it was cool, though, I have to say, because, I mean, ranking was pretty easy. There was a lot less competition, and, I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, ranked for a lot of crazy stuff back then. But anyways, that party came to a screeching halt. But do I call that a mistake? No, because I think that was the industry norm back in the day. And if I have one regret about all that is I think sometimes, imagine if I had started like a really, really good site way back then and just took the tortoise route and kept growing it where it would be now. But, I took shortcuts, and I did the link building stuff. But I think a lot of big sites today also did, and they somehow come through it all and survived. So, I mean, I have a couple of sites that made it through. I just didn't happen to do a whole lot of, and they're good sites. So I don't really regret it, but I wish I'd started a good site. But fortunately, I started a good site in 2014 and grown since then. I regret a mistake is I didn't take advantage of the free Facebook traffic a whole lot more when that was going, because that came about right after the first Penguin. I mean, after that, it's like everyone is jumping onto Facebook, and the free traffic and getting fans, and then the free traffic was incredible. Like, it was just, I couldn't post fast enough every day. I was like one an hour for 24 hours. It was just this like massive stream, and that was great. I wish I had done a lot more of that. I wish I had set up like 20 pages and just totally gone after that. But that came to an end as well. In terms of what I'm doing these days, sometimes I think it's a mistake to run as many sites as I'm doing. Some weeks I think, maybe sell them or put them on the back burner. Maybe I'm spread too thin. And I think probably it's true. But they are serving a good purpose because I get to do a lot of testing on them. And that's proved really helpful. So even though they're not growing as fast as I would like, just because I don't have the time or the money to invest in them, the fact that I do have 10,000 visitors a day to testing sites, I can do some pretty cool stuff in there. And I don't really care. Like if an ad network proves to be really bad, or I get bad results for a week, we're not talking a tremendous amount of money. The results are valuable enough that I can make better decisions going forward. So but there are weeks I think, maybe I should just dump everything and focus on one or two projects. And that's probably pretty sound advice, but we'll see what I do.
Very good. So, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, I mean, if you could hire like a semi-pro, semi-qualified, or very qualified person to come on and like manage the other sites, I mean, like, would you bring on like a junior partner? I mean, I don't want to get people sending you a bunch of stuff, but I'm like, it sounds like a full-time job to manage that. And then you could like crush it and grow like the other site, and just kind of like get some of the mental strain, just away. I don't know if that's a good question, but yeah, I'm just like, hey, you have enough revenue, you could bring someone on, they can learn in an apprentice sort of situation.
Yeah, well, actually, my project manager is able to handle all with the content side. It's not that, but I do have to. It's funny. You think, well, I really don't pay a lot of attention to those sites and use them for testing, but sometimes they do require my attention, and it is a bit of a distraction. It's also, I'd say the bigger issue is being able to finance content for 8 sites versus 2. It's a huge difference in terms of the monthly spend. And I've spent a fair amount in certain months really loading up a bunch of sites. The question is whether that money can be used in better ways. And sometimes I think definitely yes. But I've managed to grow a couple of them too. I mean, they're not huge sites, but I've grown them to where it's like, oh, that's great. I'm pretty happy I have those sites. And so, I keep plugging away at it. So really it comes down to, to keep trying to grow them. It takes a lot of money every month. They are profitable, which is great. So I don't really need someone to come on board to like actually take over an entire site and manage it at this point, but maybe down the road. I don't know. I'll see. Anyways, these are sort of the things that go through my mind weekly. Some weeks I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna tackle all 9 sites. Other weeks I'm like, I just want to focus on this one.
Yeah, I hear that. What gives you the confidence to spend the money? I'm doing a case study right now where I'm laying out a fairly significant amount of cash, a lot for content, and I don't know if it's going to be successful, but I've done this a couple of times, so I kind of have an idea like, hey, this will be interesting, even if it doesn't work out. So what gives you the confidence to like invest in those sites that aren't, doing like a huge amount of revenue just over time? How do you do it?
Because I believe they have potential. And I'm in a good position where I can be patient. 4 years ago, I wasn't patient, but I can be now. And so, you look at the ROI of these websites. Let's say I put, $300 a month into a site. Let's call it $3,500 a year. And I do that for 5 years. What is that? $18,000, let's say, investment. But if that site's even earning $2,000 a month with the sale value, that's a very good return on the investment. And that's fairly slow growth. I mean, that's 5 years. So I think, I believe, I've seen the tremendous return on investment with this. So I definitely look at it that way. The sites that I do keep around, I see that there's potential. It's a niche I think has potential. It's a niche that I like. I tend to choose niches I have an interest in. And so it's something I'll continue working on it and want to continue working on. It's just sometimes, some months I just don't really have the time to really go at it hammer and tongs. But I think the return on investment potential is always good. The thing is, the bigger part of the question, though, is we're always going to buy content that is going to lose us money because not every piece is going to be a winner. But I think once you've done it as long as we both have, and we've ordered and published so much content, the winners are going to make up for the losers. And that's the goal. And you just hope that keeps happening more and more. And so that's why I take the gamble and buy all the content.
Awesome. Very well said. Again, I think I run across folks that try to calculate the ROI per article sometimes to justify the spend. And I see where they're coming from, but when you average it out, right, you're going to have some big winners that you didn't even think were going to show up, and then it makes up for the difference. So do you run those sort of numbers where you're like, each article is worth X amount, and then, you're laughing. So
yeah, I do sometimes more just because I think it makes for interesting content for Fatstacks, but then I'll do it and I'll actually find it really super helpful in terms of seeing where I'm at. One number that I came up with, what I thought was really interesting, was sort of an average page views per month I needed to break even. I assumed an average cost per article and then, revenue per thousand and then how many page views I needed. And that was an interesting benchmark. And then I could look in Google Analytics and see, well, how many articles out of the 3,300 are actually hitting that number of page views per month? And it wasn't even 50%, right? It was smaller than 50%. So, really, like less than half of my articles are actually really generating any kind of decent revenue or profits. But the ones that do, they're doing it quite well. So yeah, I think that kind of stuff is pretty interesting. But I don't do it all that often. I just do it once in a while. I'll do a big analysis just kind of for fun and check it out. I'm not a real close tracker. I don't track a lot of stuff. It's probably to my detriment for sure. Just I couldn't be bothered to. I'm not really a super technical or analytical person. I'm kind of a big picture, just sort of let's just rip that stuff out and just see what happens and let the chips fall as they may and hope for the best. And I'm doing my best. And I'm based on what's worked and see what happens.
Very cool. And I think like you came back to a point that I think is really critical. Like you have data to look at on the other side. So a lot of times people, I mean, we need to do this, right? You have to make an assumption, do something, get the feedback, do the feedback loop. So you have data where you could check and you're like, oh, it looks like we have a 50% or 500 hit rate here. And we can just assume that moving forward. Like I said, you have enough data where you can actually like make some real conclusions out there. So very cool. Well, Jon, this has been awesome. I know like the audience is going to love it. I'll put links for all your stuff out there, but where's the number one place you want people to find you?
My blog, fatstacksblog.com.
Awesome. Well, you have a great day there. Really appreciate it, Jon.
Thanks for having me, Doug. It was fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Jon, and do go check out Fatstacks Blog. I highly encourage you to sign up for the email list. I am not on very many email lists, and I don't read very many of the ones that I'm on, but I do read Jon's, because one cool thing that he does is put like a lot of content into his emails. A lot of times it's content that is not even on his blog. So it's a cool way to just like get the information out to be helpful. And he's not like, you know, forcing you to go to some other website like I always do, right? Like I'm always trying to get people off of whatever platform they're on. Which I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of what I got to do, I guess, or that's what I am doing. I don't have to do anything, I guess. Anyway, Jon puts actual information into his email list, so do sign up for it. And he's a great writer and communicator, and I think probably, you know, his law background, being a lawyer, you have to write a lot, based on my understanding, and you have to communicate clearly. Now, we all have opinions about lawyers and stuff, but Jon seems like a good guy, I think. So it's fun to read his emails, and they're practical. There's usually some story or something along with it, something a little more personal. So I appreciate that in the emails versus, you know, a lot of the other email lists, the ones that I'm not on, someone's really trying to sell something hard. Again, you know, I think I kind of do that every now and then, but I try and keep it to a minimum. I try to give away a ton of great information. And then when I sell something, I will really get into your face. But I mean, I think the stuff that I'm trying to sell, typically, I stand behind it, right? I always stand behind it. What am I talking about? All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we have for today. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And if you happen to have found this via Jon's blog or something that he shared out, that's super awesome. Look out for the other episode with Jon coming up. And if you like this, do check out my interview, and there's like a Q&A with Ron Stefanski, and a whole other interview, a lot of similar like monetization strategies and stuff. And, you know, obviously it's a little bit different in certain ways, but they have a similar like approach with ad-based sites versus, you know, what I do, affiliate-based sites. So everybody have a great day out there, and do me a favor, tell a friend about this podcast here. Let them know that you enjoy it, if you did. And then, you know, share a link. Maybe put it in a Facebook group or something like that. You know, don't spam it out there or anything, but try and spread the word. I'm trying to get the word out about the podcast. I really like doing this, and I think people enjoy it. It's sometimes hard to get the feedback. Getting analytics for podcasts it's a little bit problematic versus YouTube, right? YouTube, you get like too much data. And it's a little awkward to work through, to wade through all that data that you get. You can make some weird decisions with all the data they give you on YouTube. But the podcast, it's like I'm in a black hole or something like that. But when I see, you know, more people are downloading it and stuff, that's good. I can tell that's a good thing. And if you share it, it means you enjoyed it enough to tell someone else. And that endorsement is way better than, you know, me trying to tell people to listen to my stuff. Obviously, I mean, who would trust someone promoting their own stuff? But if you tell them, they'll probably believe it. All right, I'll get out of here. You have a good day. We'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you.